Hello everyone and welcome to the Necromancy Mega Patch Notes. The video in the background is the teaser for this patch. It's also linked in the description. So for all that are too lazy to read the patch notes themselves, I will read them for you. And one very interesting thing, this is the patch for 7 weeks, about 7 weeks. They pushed all this stuff out in 7 weeks, which is pretty good for the time. I mean, this patch is massive. So now to the stuff that is added. Now you can equip a shield with lances. Added a new chat command, report, to open the bug report window directly. The game menu button is still the same. Added the ability to craft legendary shields. Also added the ability to craft legendary armor pieces. Added interactive lore books and notes to the world. Added trinket vendors to Haven. You can now get trinkets in Haven as a rare drop. AI can now spawn with buffs. AI can now have more interesting hit zones instead of just distance from the AI. I don't get this sentence either. I don't know what this means. Added support for static AI. Added proper support for AI weak spots that turn on and off. AI can now have attacks its only uses if you are far away. Added support for aggro based on distance. AI can now be set to ignore going into mercy mode. AI can now spawn loot in other positions than its own position. Added a massive boss, the Greater Kimuru. Here is a picture of the Kimuru. So this looks like the Kimuru cave from Mortal Online 1, more or less. A little bit more fire in there. And this looks like the Greater Kimuru. This is a real big world boss. Okay, but back to the list. They added a new dungeon. Yeah, the Kimuru cave, I guess. Maybe they mean the Necro dungeon. Added a new boss to the new dungeon. Added new enemies that may be encountered in the new dungeon. Added new necromancy magic school. Yes. Several new necromancy spells. For all the necromancy spells, check the link in the video description where Henrik is showing all the necromancy spells. And rituals can be performed in order to raise minions. For the rituals, also in the description. And added undead versions of most creatures in-game. Then some engine changes. For example, the Unreal Engine is upgraded to 4.27. The game now uses oodle compression to reduce game size and thus improve loading times from disk. This means that the full game is now only 60% of its previous size. They also upgraded the DLSS version, and they also enabled optimizing setting in the engine to speed up loading from some assets. So now to the changes. This is a huge list. Activated Clade Gifts experience sharing with healers again. Now it should work. Renamed some trinket effects. Skill Trinket Luck is now called Trinket Effect Luck. Trinket Luck is now called Gem Effect Luck. Rare Trinket Luck is now called Rare Trinket Gem Luck. Legacy Trinkets will now check for a version update when recharged. This means that the trinket will increase its base and gem tier to be in line with the current trinket balance. You can now cancel a spell while charging by using the keybind Walk Feint. The loot chat command now checks a bigger area beneath you for the loot bags. Untamed or unknown AI will no longer reset the criminal debuff of a player. Added the option to make AI pet immune, meaning pets will not attack the AI. The following bosses can't get killed with pets: the Clothes Maiden Queen, the Minotaur King, the Nitro Queen, and the Zator Vessel. Removed some priests close to dungeons. If many spirits attack one spirit, only one will receive the rewards. Bosses will now reset in a better way when they no longer have a target. Bosses will now reset even if there are dead players close to it. Added better leashing and stuck checks for AI. You no longer progress towards the Watchman achievement when killing scoundrels. Changed some dynamic spawners in the world that spawned too many creatures. Getting hit by regular AI will no longer reset your criminal status. This will only be affected when getting hit by guards, players, and their pets. You can now intentionally fizzle spells using the Walk Feint Interrupt keybind. Mana, cast time, range, and damage tweaks on Thunderlash and Flamestrike. Quality of life. You can now left click on a spell in the spellbook UI to lock the spell and its spell page, making it easier to see stats and what regents are necessary to cast. Added tooltips for spells in the action bar. Added pet equipment category to the broker. You can now put trinkets in bags. You can now close the delete items UI by pressing escape. Changes to the UI, improved the bug report window with categories and some other changes. This will help us categorize incoming reports in the backend. Updated the map UI. Potion units are now shown in the tooltip of potions. Updated descriptions on the engraver tool. Fixed bug where casting an ecumenical reflect spell on self would not renew an existing buff and instead cancel it. Fixed a bug where you could not be flagged as a criminal when casting a spell that reflected back. You can no longer use ecumenical reflection to avoid being killed in mercy mode. The ecumenical reflection spell can now be used to protect against AI spells. The ecumenical reflection spell can now be casted on AI, including pets, and will reflect spells. Some bosses will be too powerful for reflection to work against them. You will now see and hear an effect when a spell is successfully reflected off a target. Some spells will now be unaffected by the ecumenical reflect shield, such as healing spells. The shield will remain untouched if that happens. Fixed animation bug where casting a spell on a target that reflected your spell back to you would make you play a self-cast animation. Fixed a bug where reflected spell would sometimes spawn particles in both locations. Then the changes to swimming. Fixed a bug where you would stop swimming and be able to run on the sea or lake or floor. Fixed bug where dismount a horse in water or a horse died while mounted would cause you to drop instantly to the bottom and take damage, sometimes being able to run around. They also fixed a bug where dismounting and mounting a horse again while swimming would cause it to almost not be able to move. Changes to movement. Fixed a bug where an AI that failed to find ground would get a bad position, update and run briefly to a different position than intended. Finally this is fixed. Holy shit. Improved AI acceleration and declaration so that movement is less sudden, especially in combat. Fixed bug where the body in first person view would sometimes flip reset its animation direction when starting and stopping. Fixed an issue with undead getting sporadic hitches and stuttering due to bad angular velocity calculations in animation updates. And now to the changes to the mounts. Mounts collision now covers the player. This means that you can no longer ride through areas where the player won't fit on top of the horse. This will fix some issues, but instead cause a specific issue with bringing mounts into low door frames in player housing until we solve in-house navigation for pets. You can no longer mount a horse if there is not enough space above it. Mounts will no longer auto steer while swimming. Fixed a few issues and improved the turning animation while swimming on a mount. Mounts no longer slow down and try to avoid steep slopes and stairs that are still traversable. You know what I mean. Mount auto steering is now adjusted based on speed being stronger at higher speeds. Player input now takes full control over the mount. Letting go of input leaves control back to the mount. Mount auto steering while avoiding obstacles is now limited to the same turn rate as when the player is in control. Mounts could previously turn faster on their own than when the player was turning. Fixed a bug where mount auto steering would sometimes turn into an obstacle instead of away from it. Mounts should no longer full brake effectively when stuck. When too close to objects, they are trying to steer away from it. Fixed an issue where the neck of the mount would get strong left and right turns when moving into obstacles. Both the mount and player will now take damage from drowning or environmental damage like lava. Only the player took damage before. Mounts now regenerate stamina faster. Awesome. And now to the fixes list, and no, I will not read all the fixes, but they fixed a lot of bugs and they fixed a lot of problems, and they finally did that what people asked for about half a year ago. They finally fixed a lot of shit. So good work, Star Vault. Keep up the good work. I mean, we waited a little bit longer for this content patch than for normally for the content patches in the last year, but it is worth it. I mean, the new boss AI, the necromancy spells and stuff, and all these fixes and all the other changes and stuff like that. So keep up the pace and big thanks. So if you already have tried patch, please leave your opinions in the comments, please. So special thanks to all the supporters, of course: Carmel, Professor O, Slum of Gaming, Thibni, Lordless Guild, Frederick, Rhonus, Paarthurnax, Vinya, Cologne, Bulldog, Xunila, you and all the others, of course. So always remember to patch hard, party hard, and see you all next time. Goodbye.